Today I'm telling you the do's and don'ts of baking. So, my name's Amelia Orr, and I like to bake a lot. It's kind of what I do to relieve my stress, or if I'm having a bad day, I kind of just like to relax by baking. And baking takes a lot of days or sometimes hours, depends on what you're making. But if you want to make something small like brownies, I think you should start off with the box brownie first before you try to do homemade brownies because you can mess it up really easily, like I did. I made the wrong choice of trying to make it homemade and I didn't when I should have just did the box version and kind of learned from that. But you can also make cookies. Cookies are really easy to make if you buy the ones in the container that all you have to do is get out and put them on the pan. But if you want to make homemade cookies, I suggest you make sure you use like the right ingredients. But say you want gluten-free cookies or something, you're gonna need to buy the right ingredients and switch out the ingredients. Say chocolate chips. You can't use regular chocolate chips. You're gonna have to use gluten-free chocolate chips, which is kind of a big thing because if you don't, then it's gonna mess everything up. But powder or sugar, that's something you really need to make sure you get because you can't get the wrong one. And also, baking takes a lot of hours, a lot of your time away, which is something I don't think people understand that it does. They kind of just want to throw it in the oven and then go do something and they get off task and forget about it and they burn them. It's horrible. So I suggest if you're going to want to bake that you make sure you don't have nothing else to do. Like if it's a 10 to 15 minute leave them in the oven, I would say you could do something for about 10 minutes, but don't forget, set a timer for you so you know. Don't just go, oh, I'll know when it's done, I'll go look at them, and then you forget. Because that's something horrible. You don't need to do that. But also, one thing you can do is you can have a little kitchen timer in your kitchen, and you can also carry your phone around with you. That way, you can set a timer on your phone and a timer on the kitchen timer, which that's something a lot of people don't have. They think, oh, I'll just use my phone, but they hear the alarm, they stop it, and they just continue doing what they're doing because they don't think. And when you're baking, you kind of have to think. That's the big deal, is thinking about everything. Also, if you're gonna want to bake something big for Christmas or Thanksgiving or just any family gathering, I suggest you start off small with like cupcakes or a cake, not a cheesecake because I'll tell you about my disaster. But I Cupcakes are really easy to make. You just need a cupcake pan and the batter and then you're done. You throw them in the oven for about 20-30 minutes and you're done. But if you're gonna make a cheesecake, you need a lot of responsibility and you need a lot of time on your hands. Because if you don't have a lot of time on your hands, that's really gonna mess everything up. Because I made a cheesecake before and I wasn't paying attention on how long I was supposed to let it sit out for. It was already done. I just had to leave it set out. It took a lot of time to make it, though. You had to freeze it, put it in the refrigerator, take it out, add stuff to it. It was kind of a big mess. So I suggest you start with something small. And if you're going to make a cheesecake, make it with someone. That way they can help you. Because I left mine out on the counter for too long. And it kind of just messed everything up. And it was horrible. I cried a lot because it was not turning out the way I wanted it to. And also, one thing people think is really easy to make is a cookie cake. I mean, they are easy to make, but you can't just throw it in a pan and say, oh, cookie cake, I'm done. It's not like that. You don't want to use the store-bought because it's just not going to go right, but you do want to use is homemade. So go get the sugar and everything for it. And I don't suggest using a regular hand mixer because that's going to get really tiring of your hand and your hand's going to start aching and you're just going to feel like you can't do it anymore. And I did that and it was not my best choice. So I don't recommend doing that. Use a mixer that does itself. You just put it on how long or how high you need it to mix. But if you're adding stuff into it while it's mixing, you don't need to leave the kitchen. You need to be in there with it. That way you can tell when it's done and you can take it out because you don't want to overmix it. Because if you overmix it, it's really not going to taste good and it's not really going to be fluffy. It's going to be kind of more like hard and you don't want that. It's not going to taste good, trust me. But baking is really easy and sometimes it's hard. It kind of just depends if it's your strong suit. I learned to bake by my mom when I was little. I would go in the kitchen a lot and I would learn a lot from her, even if it was just sitting in there watching her or cracking the eggs into a bowl, getting the butter out and melting it, all of that. It's so fun, but you have to actually like it for it to be something you do like doing. So I suggest don't go off and be like, oh, it's not that hard. I can do it. I've never baked before. No, you can't, because the directions get a little confusing sometimes and you just feel like you can't do it. Which I do that, but I push through. I'm like, I started it, I'm gonna finish it. That's something you need to remember, that you start it, you're gonna have to finish it one way or another. So I think just sticking with it really helps you. So stick with it and it'll really help. Don't go off and do something else, because then it's really going to mess everything up. And you're not going to want that. Like for a chocolate chip cookie recipe, you're going to need chocolate chips, flour, sugar. Sometimes you can put powdered sugar. I love making mine really gooey to where I can put powdered sugar and everything on there, because I think it tastes better that way. It kind of gives you flour, like that little taste, you know. And one thing I suggest not making when you're at a beginner's level is lemon squares, because I messed up really bad on that and it was something I should have never done, which I regret a lot, but it's okay because I got through it. We learned not to make them again, but I was making them, you know how you have to set all the ingredients on the pan, freeze it, put the more ingredients, freeze it again, get it out, let it set. Well, I didn't let mine set. I put it in the refrigerator and I was like, I'll just get it out in the morning, because I had to leave it in there for a couple hours. So I was going to go to sleep, wake up, and then put it back in there, take it out, actually. And that was a horrible decision because I was running late that day for my doctor's appointment, which was at 12, and I woke up at 11. It was horrible, but I brushed my teeth, woke up, I had to get in my car, drive to Schellenberg, and then when I got home, I was like, oh, my lemon squares. So I brought them, I got them into the house, I took them out of the refrigerator, and there they were. It was horrible because it was all gooey and they were not squares. It was like just one big rectangle. So I suggest not making that if you're at a beginner's level, because you really will regret it. People are like, oh, I'll just make it again. No, you can't. Because if you make it one time and you think that you messed up on it, you're not going to want to do it again. You're going to want to have someone in there with you telling you if you did something right or wrong, and they don't need to be in there. You know what you did. You did it last time. Just don't forget or anything. We all have our bad baking stories, but it's okay though, because it's always going to happen. So if anything ever happens, take a break, kind of inhale and exhale, calm down, get a new recipe, maybe easier, that's not takes a long time, and then make it, and then go from there to getting harder. You know, that's how I learned. And it really helped me out because it was really calming to me, and how I did it, I felt better because I felt like I could do it again, and I did. Now, we had a bake sale, and I bake a lot just to give back to the community, and I really like it. They all love it. I make my homemade recipes, which was hard because I had to know how much stuff to add and how much stuff not to. So it's really hard. So I keep them on little index cards. So if you're going to make homemade recipes, I think you should keep them on an index card up in your cabinet or with your recipes so you don't lose it, because I lost mine and I cried. It was a really good coconut pie. I loved it so much. Loved making it. It was really easy, and everything happened and I lost it, which was really upsetting because I spent a lot of time trying that recipe. So I had to go back and retry it again because I didn't know what to add and what not to. But coconut flakes, I like adding those sometimes depending on how I'm feeling, but sometimes I don't, because I kind of feel like it just takes everything away because it's really sweet. and not a lot of people like sweet stuff on their cake. So if you're going to a family reunion who doesn't like sweet stuff, I would suggest not putting it on there because they're not really going to eat it. And they want to try it, but they can't. So I don't suggest putting that on there. I think you should make two different ones, or just don't even put coconut flakes on top of it because it's just going to be horrible. But I hope you did learn a lot from me today and that you won't take my bad stories and do them yourself. I hope you'll learn from them. And thank you for listening. Have a good day.